Hello, my friend. Do you know that you could have generational curses? My name's Riley. If you're new here, I just got done with my 6th ayahuasca ceremony. I'm here in beautiful Potter Valley, California at the retreat center Oluna Healing Center that I hold retreats and attend retreats for my own growth. And yeah, that's been on my mind today as I integrate and come back to earth after that really powerful experience. I felt like sharing with you guys that you may, in fact, have generational curses. And for those of you that are not familiar, your family has certain patterns that carry through each generation until someone comes along, such as yourself, to break those cycles or those family patterns. An example in my own life is addiction or bad relationships and all sorts of other sorts of trauma, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, or even sexual abuse. And the craziest thing is they've studied this with epigenetics, and epigenetics basically show that up to 7 generations back behind you, and you will carry 7 generations ahead of you, this generational trauma. It can basically affect up to 7 generations back and up to 7 generations forward. So if you think about 7 generations back, that's your dad and your mom, your grandma and grandpa, your great-grandma and grandpa, your great-great-great-great-great, and so on and so forth. Like, that's a really long time ago, maybe 100, even 150 years ago, of family tree back. You could still be carrying those curses and those cycles that your family had back then. And whatever that looks like for you, I'll tell you a story about myself. During my ayahuasca ceremony today, that was a really big thought, was those in my family. And based on my family patterns or those generational curses, I should be an alcoholic. I should be married and divorced already. I should have all sorts of dysfunctional patterns of behavior that cause myself and others pain. But because of this kind of work that I'm doing here at this retreat center with ayahuasca and learning about how to heal myself and become conscious, if you're not familiar with what that means, it's like becoming more self-aware and choosing based on that awareness versus just defaulting to your base patterns. You can overcome those things. And in my own life, like I say, I've overcome addiction to substances or pornography and all sorts of other things that would have totally destroyed my life if I hadn't got them under control a couple years back when I first got into this kind of work. And so I want you to think about, like, what generational cycles may you be acting out right now in your life, or that could happen in your life if you don't become the person to break those cycles. It could be anything. Maybe in your family there's a history of abuse of some sort. Maybe you yourself were abused as a kid and you're worried that you don't want to obviously do that to your children, but you see how maybe your parents did it to you and their parents did it to them, and these things just happen. And it takes someone like yourself who comes along and says, you know what, the madness stops with me. I'm not going to perpetuate or continue these crazy cycles. I'm not going to feed into the chaos. And you have to be that one to make the choice to work on yourself and kind of face those demons in your family, because most likely no one else will. It's not often people in family trees become conscious and decide to do something about it. Most people just bury their head under the sand and continue these crazy family cycles well into their family with their kids. And you got to think, if it's 7 generations back, that's quite a while, and 7 generations forward. Here's the crazy thing about epigenetics, is that they've shown that you can essentially heal those things for yourself, but also for those people 7 generations back and 7 generations forward, because it's kind of like this cause and effect relationship. If things can get carried down a family tree or family line and forward, they can also get carried backwards, in the sense of if you work on yourself on a very subconscious in your mind or spiritual level, it not only affects you, it affects those future generations, and it also helps the past generations. Maybe it's your ancestors or your parents if they're still alive, or your grandparents if they're still alive. And in my own life, it's been really profound to see, as I do this work on myself, I see it show up in my dad and my mom, in my siblings, and they start to face their own demons as well. And I'm not taking credit for it, but I'm just simply saying that you could become that drop in the bucket, so to speak, that becomes a tidal wave in your family if you just decide to face the demons, basically face those family cycles and do something about them. So I guess my message here today is, as I'm coming back to earth, like I say, after that ayahuasca ceremony, to consider in your life what family cycles you may have, what family curses or generational curses you may either be acting out right now or have the potential to. Be honest with yourself, because even in my own life, I still have temptations to do destructive things. That's just part of the game, but it's that conscious choice and awareness that helps me to not do those things. And doing this kind of work here at Aluna is really powerful because it reprograms your subconscious mind. It literally changes the default pattern. It's like a virus in a computer. If you have a virus in a computer, it's going to cause all sorts of shit to happen. Like your browser is going to open up random windows, or maybe your computer will slow down. And our brain is very similar, that how you were brought up and raised kind of dictates how your program runs, so to speak, later in life. And doing this kind of stuff, like working with plant medicines or even traditional therapy and stuff like that, although I will say traditional therapy, although it's great, it's not as profound of a shift as something like this that allows you to really reprogram your subconscious mind and change who you are on a very deep level for the better. So I guess my challenge to you today is think about or talk about what family cycles and generational curses you may have, and do something about it, because if not, then your kids are going to get fucked up, and no one wants that. I definitely didn't, and I know you probably don't either. So let's do something about it together. And if you're interested in attending a retreat like this, then I'd love to have you. Check the link down below. I host these retreats a couple times a year, and I'd love to be the one to celebrate you breaking those cycles. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. Peace.